Okay.
All right. So we're going to talk about one of the most important life skills you can have, which is the ability to remove non-essential ambitions, like our petty ambitions, so that we can regain inner strength. So it's learning how to discipline your desires and curb those desires. It's a skill you can learn just like anything else. And removing the ambition for the non-essentials creates true freedom, because the more you want, the more demands you have to satisfy in life. And a lot of times we have to live through it and realize how unsatisfying these things are when we get them. But there is an easier way, and that's through developing this, like developing any other skill, like learning to play the piano, learning to play baseball, or learning a language. You can learn it just like anything else. So the first thing we would want to do is get on target with what the ambition is. So let's take, and this could be something you have, or it could be just something that you could take as an example. But I want you to give me an example of, maybe something might be a little bit superficial, or something you're afraid of losing, and just describe an ambition you have. And it could be something like an award, a promotion, social importance, a perfect body, proving past people wrong, financial stability, being a top performer, popularity, fame, blah, 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 blah. Fine dining, fancy clothes, whatever you want, living in the same house, not having to move, anything. What would you want to use as an example?
The first one I want to target, I think, is financial stability and like career. It has to tie in with career for me. So for me, I'm always like thinking about like next moves, career focus, but also I think like right now the financial stability is really being challenged just given the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be that's the first one that I want to hone in on.
Okay, so why don't we just say financial security?
Okay.
Because stability and security kind of means the same thing, I think, right? And it just
Yeah.
means that things feel financially secure. So we're aiming for that feeling that things are financially secure, right?
Okay.
Okay, perfect. And if we were to we just want to make sure that we're not aiming at a decoy target. So if we track it back to the root desire, why do you really want that?
I truly don't know. um, when I feel like it's just happening more so now, from because usually when I'm striving towards career, like for me naturally, lately I felt so authentic with some career moves and just trying to like serve people. But I feel like I now have this this other like side of my brain that's kind of like, is this sustainable? Can you sustain yourself? Like if, I had to move out or whatnot, like would I be able to sustain myself? And the answer is no. So I feel like that's something that kind of like weighs me down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. To be kind of like financially independent.
Yeah.
Or a feeling of that. Okay. That makes sense. All right. And how much do you desire that on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say 6. Like,
okay. Fair. That sounds realistic.
yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and we're just going to see if this is really an essential as much, or it might be an essential, it might be a non-essential, right?
Yeah.
It might be realistic, it might be not realistic. Like we don't really know yet. And I'm like, oh, the way you're describing it, it kind of sounds like it's somewhat essential. Like, because abject poverty is an all-consuming distraction, right? Excess money can be a non-essential, but to what degree are you describing excess? I think you're describing more just sustainability.
Right.
Right. So, all right. Well, let me ask you this. How is this concept overrated, this financial independence state of being, right? So first of all, can material wealth truly bring security?
No.
Okay. In what ways can somebody suddenly lose all their wealth?
Let's say they get hacked. Bank, I don't know, they get hacked, or things like divorce kind of splits your money in half.
Yeah, you could, or you could lose your job, you could get
Lose your job.
sued, or you could die, right? Like,
right. I didn't come to mind, but yes.
yeah, absolutely. Now, do rich people still have fights and arguments over money?
Yes.
Of course they do. One of the number one things they fight over, money. Right. Yeah.
So
and they all think one day when we have money, that'll solve everything. And we're fighting over money, but no, we're not getting a membership in that private club. No, forget it. We just bought a new boat. We don't have money for this. Desperate times, like.
Right.
So, how do our needs and desires expand and increase once we have a lot of money?
Because then you just want more. Like, because you have that, I guess you have that money, you look at the more expensive things, or you might need more that you want to spend. You want to spend more, essentially.
Yeah. And you have standards that you need to maintain. It's
right.
Like, well, I can't drive that vehicle, because I'm at this level. I can't wear those tattered clothes because that's not me. I have to now have this kind of a handbag and with a little dog in it or whatever, like,
right.
Whatever standards people have, Now, does the fear of never having enough money ever end, even when we have money?
It doesn't end. I can imagine it not ending because you always want more.
Yeah, it never really makes us content, because then we're like, okay, we got money, but mortgage payments are due every month. I got to pay, a couple thousand in mortgage every month. Even though I'm financially independent now, I don't really feel financially independent.
Okay.
I'm just dependent in a different way, right? So that when we desire that thing, we don't realize that it's a wild goose chase, right? Now, here's something. Will inflation and taxes lower the value of your money over time?
Yes.
Absolutely. All they got to do is, there's a money printing machine, turn it on. Guess what? All the money you have is relatively less in value. And the government can do that at any time, especially if they're giving out lots of free money to businesses and people that have been affected from the pandemic. I bet that money printing machine was started at least 5 a.m. this morning. They're like, flip it on, all this money's flying out of this pipe right now.
Yeah.
But now let's think about extravagance. Like the things that money can really get us when we get more amounts of it. How is fine dining overrated?
Oh, how is fine dining overrated?
Yeah.
Well, essentially you can get like the same food items, but just at a different price.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a lot less, isn't it? Like, you leave hungry.
Yes.
And sometimes it's like really stuffy to like eat and everything, because there's all these rules and things, and you can't, heaven forbid you get some food on your face at a fine dining place. Like,
yeah, definitely. So yeah, less portions,
stuffy, kind of,
yes.
Yeah. How are really expensive clothes overrated?
Because it's really just for show. Like, you're getting a different label printed on your shirt, and it's at a higher price. So you're still being covered by the same material, if not worse material.
You're paying for the hype and the marketing and all the advertising, and do you have to worry more about not getting a stain if you're wearing something super expensive and not getting it dirty?
So true.
and you can't clean it the same way you clean other things, right? Like, there's rules you got to follow, right?
100%.
And then, isn't there other people who they compliment you, but really they resent you because you have the clothes they wanted, but they couldn't afford.
Yeah.
Yeah, people get jealous, all that kind of stuff, right? How are luxury cars overrated?
Oh, same deal. Well, one, your oil changes and all the other functions are way more expensive.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah.
parts, difficult.
They milk you on it for sure.
Um, but also you have to be more worried about stealing or leaving things in your car.
Yeah, they steal the hood ornaments typically. Like,
Do they
what is it? Like an
actually?
angel with a wreath, and people like stealing that stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, even just like if you were to drop something in your car or whatever, it would be a little bit of a bigger deal, like staining your seat or the
Yeah.
interior. My goodness.
Like
End of world.
I thought spilling a coffee on my computer was the end of the world, right? Like imagine spilling a big gulp in your Rolls Royce or whatever, right? So, and the
Right.
mileage isn't great on those things either. You're always filling up gas, and it's got to be the top gas. Like
Right.
this thing's allergic to normal gasoline. Like you have to pay for the premium stuff. Like,
Yeah.
right? So, what about luxury homes? How are luxury homes overrated?
There's so much, well, not for everybody, but there's a lot of excess space that you don't even use and
Mm-hmm.
furniture. So you're just filling up a bunch of rooms, but you only look at them. So it's not as cool as it sounds. Um, what else? There's also like a lot more maintenance and cleaning.
Oh, yes, that's what I was waiting for. Now you got to clean and dust all those rooms and vacuum all those rooms because, the bacteria have been enjoying this room all to themselves because nobody else has been in there,
Right.
like,
100%.
and then you might have to hire help for that. And that's another financial, that's another financial responsibility. Because you might be like, I don't got time to clean my house. It's huge. Like there's so
Yeah.
much. I got to hire somebody for that. Now I'm never going to be financially free. I got to pay for this. I got to pay for this. And then
Hmm.
also property taxes, you're paying a certain amount a year
Right.
that you never get back. Right? Like you're basically paying rent to the government when you have a luxury home, big rent that never comes back through property taxes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So can the most relevant problems in human life be solved with money? Like, can it repair relationships?
Not long term, maybe temporarily.
It can soothe it, maybe,
Soothe.
right? Yeah, like you
Exactly.
can just be like, all right, well, we're gonna take a vacation. Everyone's all excited, and then you show up and you got the same conflicts because of personality differences that were always there. Like
Right.
money doesn't change that, right? Necessarily. Can it truly prevent disease, accidents, hunger, thirst, a winter chill, back pain? Can it truly prevent all those things in a guaranteed way?
No,
No, it can't.
not
Can't
at all.
prevent a lot of stuff, right? You know, um, and after the pleasure of buying something, does that good feeling wear off?
Yeah, always.
And then do we get like the pain of loss, theft, upkeep, deterioration, and all those things come next?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have this whole minimalist movement because people are like, it's a scam. It feels good at first, and then it's like all
And
the
then,
owning all these things is just such a burden on your life, right? Now, I don't believe we need to be that extreme, and I don't believe that's necessary and called for necessarily, but
right.
there is some validity to the concept of simple living. As Yogananda would say, simple living and high thinking.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Now, does true happiness come from the inside or does it come from things?
Definitely the inside.
Yeah, does it,
That
does
we
it
know.
yeah, it doesn't truly improve how we feel on the inside, right? I mean, they've done studies and they've showed that over 70K a year, like once you're making over 70K a year, it kind of the happiness plateaus. because at about 70K, you can pretty much do the main things you need to do. You have the same opportunities that you need, right?
Yeah,
You know?
and most of the time, like I mean, I have a lot of people in my life that have had taken that career jump for that higher salary, and every single time they do, I always see that kind of like that downward like in terms of sense of fulfillment, like and even coming back and regretting it a little bit, saying like, you know what, I was kind of happy where I was at. Maybe I shouldn't have taken that higher position because added stress. Again, yeah, financial burden probably increased too, even though they got paid more,
Mm-hmm.
but you
It
take
was a
on more.
seductive opportunity,
Right.
right?
The four quadrants. Yep.
Totally. Totally. Now,
Got it.
have many people had a profound impact on the world without having great wealth?
Hmm.
Think of some of them. Like, how rich was Mother Teresa? How
That's so
rich was
true.
Gandhi?
That's so true.
You know, like there's lots of great thinkers and spiritual masters in the human story that did everything they did without having lots of money. And we still talk about them today. And they still inspire us and shape our lives in the best way possible to this very day. And they didn't use money to do it.
Yeah, you can't quantify that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, how is financial fortune, like how much money you make, an overrated scorecard for success? Because everyone uses that as your scorecard. Like, okay, I can't hang out with people if they don't make at least six figures a year, and blah blah blah. And there's a level of pride that comes with income and everything else. But how is it really an overrated scorecard? How much money you make?
Well, it's not a determinant of happiness. And people do say that they're striving for that when they strive for money. They're striving to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's kind of like a short-ended, it's a short or a dead end.
Yeah,
Um, it's overrated because, you know, even the most wealthy people that I know, they missed out on like quality time with their family, or they made a lot of sacrifices that actually in the end ended up being like bigger sacrifices than maybe getting that lower paid job.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now think about this. Can money be easily inherited by people?
Yes.
Can they be born into lots of money and then still wear it like a badge of honor? Like, I'm the elite. You know, it's like, no, that was an accident of birth. You shouldn't really credit it yourself. You were the fastest sperm to the egg, maybe, but you didn't really earn this kind of level of success, right? Can it be acquired by luck? You know,
Yes.
winning the lottery, investing in Bitcoin at the right time, like lots of different things, perhaps. Can it be earned through unethical and evil manipulative ways?
For sure.
Absolutely. We talk about like the scams with computers and different things and upgrades and forced obsolescence and people doing all these like inefficient things to make more and more money, right?
For
Now, even
sure.
if we acquire a lot of money, is it realistic we'll be able to use it all and appreciate it all?
You don't die with it. So
Yeah. You can't take it where we're going after this. You know, a
yeah,
human life compared to all of eternity is very fleeting, and it's just a quick stop in the nature of our eternal beingness. And we don't get to take anything when we leave, right? We can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you have a million different things in your life, you can't appreciate them all at once, right? Like,
right.
unless you're Scrooge McDuck and you literally jump off a diving board and swim around in your gold coins in your safe, like maybe you're appreciating it all then. But you know, there's a lot of gold coins at the bottom that you're not appreciating, right? So we have a limited capacity for appreciation based on our focus. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and if we were to even have like a lot of money and then leave it behind for others, is it likely they'd squander it in foolish ways? Like the truth is, like a lot of I think it was the book The Millionaire Next Door or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I was into all these books early on in my career when I thought money was the path. And I remember them talking about how often like the rich people, their next generation just squanders all the wealth. Like you don't get these
Huh.
generations of family that are like 7 generations deep of wealth, because usually it gets squandered at the first generation or second generation because they don't develop the life skills, because they have things too easy and they develop too much of a sense of entitlement.
Okay.
And, a saying, they basically, the first generation of wealth tends to be very foolish, and a fool and their money are easily parted. So it's just shown that it's not that it
I
doesn't happen,
see.
but sometimes they are brought up and they're raised to be more wise and careful. But in many cases, they just end up squandering the wealth of the previous
Makes sense.
generation.
I remember even being when I was young, my first job, the value of $1 and actually earning it yourself, that shift was
Yeah.
crazy. Because yeah, for me, I after I got my job, I'm like, wow, things are actually expensive. Like I used to be given $20 like for allowance if I clean my room here and there. And then when I had to earn it with work, I'm like, wow, like I don't want to buy that t-shirt anymore. Like that's my whole like shift.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What is minimum wage these days?
I think it's 15.
Okay, when I was working in high school, it was $6.40 an hour.
Wow.
When I worked at Fish and Chips, it was $6.40 an hour. Now it's 15. Minimum wage has more than doubled in
Wow.
30 years, which is crazy. And so that's taking money right out of your pocket, right?
Yeah. When you
Now,
talk to my grandmother, she's like, "Oh, I used to get paid like $1 an hour, 75 cents." And I'm like, "What?" Like, it's crazy. Times have
mhm.
changed.
So let me ask you this. What do you think a rich person might say if you ask them if money brought them real long-term happiness?
I think they would say yes.
Okay. I've asked them and they've always said no.
Oh, they have said no. Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of them, once they're there,
Yeah.
they realize. I think before they get there, they think yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where my head was, like the ego
Once
side
they
of things.
get there, they all say no. Many
Hmm.
of them, and so I know a lot of people that are very financially wealthy. I have a lot of clients, and I think they are very mature about it. The people that I know, like they know that they would say it's just a tool, right? In fact, they have a term. They call it new money. When somebody's like new to the money scene and they think it's the be all end all, they're like, oh, that person's new money,
Oh.
right? Because they haven't developed a mature attitude towards money yet.
Okay.
So they'll within the first couple of minutes of a conversation, they'll do a humble brag about the money they have,
Hmm.
right? Like there was a client who I'd met with, or it wasn't a client, it was somebody else's client, and I met them. And within the first 2 minutes, they're telling me about their situation. And they said, and I've got more money than God, and blah, 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 blah. And then my other client's like, are you kidding? They're like, that guy's so new money. Like nobody says I've got more money than God. Like nobody who's had money for a while would ever share that when you first meet somebody, like.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a brave statement. That's very brave.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the more money than God guy, and he was not happy. He had a whole bunch of like family challenges
Hmm.
with like that his money could not solve. He found the woman of his dreams, but she has a kid that absolutely hates him and he hates the kid, and it was like, money
Oh,
can't fix that.
definitely
Like,
not.
but okay.
Hmm.
So, you know, in some ways money's unable to deliver the best things in life, right? And are money and happiness really tied together in the way society thinks, or is that just something we tell ourselves, that money and happiness are tied together?
I think it's
Right?
more
Like,
so what we tell ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, that's the rumor.
Right.
That's what we all buy into. You know, many people in human history have lived and died with the desire to be wealthy like kings and queens. Many people have always said, I want to be rich like a king or a queen. I want to be financially independent. I want financial excess and tons of money. Now that you're dead, now that they're now that you're dead, now that they're dead,
Right.
how do you think that desire serves them now, wherever they are?
It's a flat line.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
It's an itch that can't be scratched that's going to go with them wherever they go next.
Yeah.
Right? That desire is a part of them now, and it's going to go with them wherever they go. And it might be frustrated wherever they go next, because they might be in a situation where, once again, they're just not positioned to be able to experience that firsthand, or they get to experience it firsthand, perhaps in a new life, in a new body, in a new part of the world. And then they get there, and as Jim Carrey would say, Jim Carrey says, I wish other people would become rich so that they'd realize that it doesn't bring all the happiness you thought it would. Right? He's like, then they'd just be over it. They'd be like, okay, I'm here. This was not what I thought it was. I thought this was the path. It's actually a dead end. It's telling me I got to turn around and find another way to get what I've always wanted out of life. Right?
Got it.
So, and then, what about those who had a great fortune in life? What guarantees does material wealth offer after they leave the shores of mortality, after they die? What does that bring them?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, most people, like, if reincarnation's a thing, they don't even remember it, right? Like it'd be like,
right.
I don't remember my last life. I could have been like the richest, oil tycoon, whatever. Like, who knows? Like, have a mansion on the lake. I don't remember. Like, I can't even take the memory with me.
Right.
So that's question number one. All right. Question number one is basically, how is this overrated? Now, number two is, what troubles could come from this? Like, so I'm going to talk about it as excess money focus. Okay. So, because I feel like that's appropriate, because excess money focus could be, that we want, it could be that we want excess money, or it could be just that we're excessively focused on money so that we can have this feeling of security and stability, right? So, can the pursuit of wealth distract us from the pursuit of the things that bring lasting happiness and fulfillment?
Yes.
Yeah. What are all the sacrifices people make when they're too focused on finances? What important things in life do they focus on less?
Well, I would say, spirituality, even just health, connecting to people.
Yeah. So I love it. You said, time with the loved ones, basically, health. What about morals, self-respect, self-love? Does it get people to disregard the suffering of other people?
Yes.
Yeah, because we're so focused on ourselves, we don't pay attention to the suffering of others. And then, you're sacrificing your fun time, you're getting pulled away from your passions, you're sacrificing how much you like yourself, because it's hard to like yourself when you feel like, I have a condition that's not met yet. I have to be making this much amount of money, or I'm not allowed to like myself. And then the minute you start making that much amount of money, okay, time to you move that yardstick. Now that I remember talking to somebody, it was a client I had who was explaining to me that, he thought once he was making $1 million a year, that was it. Then he realized, then he's like, and then I started making $1 million a year, but the kids are in private school. We have to have a membership at this club, because everyone else in the community and everything else, it's something you have to do when you're a part of this community. We've got all this payment and stuff for the house. And, I have to wear certain clothes because of my job and drive a certain vehicle. So he's like, I'm not free. I made $1 million and I'm not free. Wow. I thought I would be free. And he's like, now I realize 10 million. I need to be making 10 million a year or I'm not free. And so he's like, so that's what I'm doing. I'm focusing on getting to 10 million a year next. Right.
Wow.
Okay. So that's a guy who's, and I think at the time he was making probably 3 million a year. And so he kind of had this attitude, like, you're not like freedom rich at $1 million. He's like, I
You
want
know
to
what's
get freedom
interesting?
rich, you
I
know?
find it so interesting how everybody, like, the financial security like benchmark is always different and changing, and it just goes to show how it's not reliable.
Ah, yes.
Like this person says 1 million, but someone else might say like, I don't know, 1,000 or 10,000,
And
you
it
know?
changes once you get there.
Yeah,
That's why we would consider it perhaps a non-essential ambition
right.
that creates neediness
Hmm.
and strains us. And those who have gotten to the land you want to go to and further beyond have said, this isn't it. This isn't going to bring you what you wanted. Right?
And we kind of started ourselves, right? Like, because no one, I mean, yeah, someone could tell you that, but then you're putting value to it or meaning to it, right? Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is.
You're
It's
like, I've
totally
seen
is.
this before, Mon.
So what about, in what ways can the desire for money make you more frail and needy?
Um, Frail, I'm just thinking because you're spending less time on yourself. Like we said, like
Yeah.
self-care, and you
Mm-hmm.
said self-respect. And so you thinking that when you get to this level, that's when you're going to respect yourself, or that's when you're going to achieve that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of puts you in like an insecure situation, I
Yeah.
guess, or you're putting yourself there. Yeah. So you're more frail.
Yeah, because you're just more desperate.
Yeah.
You're less resilient because you have conditions that must be met in order for you to have inner equilibrium.
Huh.
So you lose the inner equilibrium now, you lose the inner strength, you lose the inner peace. And when you lose those things, you lose your ability for wise judgment and creativity and your ability to relate better to other people. So you become like a slave to this condition. And it's similar to this desire can do with you what that ancient form of Roman torture was, where they would tie somebody to the back of a chariot and drag them through town. And that's what this desire can do to us and drag us through life painfully.
Wow.
And it's not going to break itself. We have to, the way out is through a change in the way you look at things. And a lot of it comes down to, you don't have to learn this the hard way. You can learn through the evidence that's already out there. There are people who've been to this land of supposed financial security, and here's what they've shared in their own, generous way. They've shared deeply and in a vulnerable way. They've shared their reality at that level. So
Right.
when I've talked to some of these people and they've shared what reality is like at that level, you realize that, from the outside, people would think you've made it, you're there. You're
Right.
like, no, there's a level of being freedom rich. Like even after a million, like you've got to then go on and everything else. I was talking to one person, I was doing a consultation with them, and they had spent their life working hard. They had an independent business, like in entrepreneur. And when you're an entrepreneur, you work into the late hours of the evening and everything else. And she and her husband had been collaborating on this business, and they'd worked it for many years. And their dream was to have a nice cabin on a private lake. Okay. And that was what they were working towards. They're like, we're going to do this business. We're going to get a cabin on a lake. Right. Now, I think she was in her late 50s, late 50s. And so she's talking to me, and they had made the arrangements. They'd bought the property, they're building it. And now she has a terminal condition in which she has like less than a year to live. And so literally, once you factor in construction delays, she's never going to actually see this thing. And so she's sitting there and she's kind of like, this is where I'm at. It's been my whole life. And I've got a terminal condition, and I'm probably not even going to get there. I'm not even going to be able to enjoy it, I'm not going to be able to enjoy it for long, even if I do get there. Right.
Right.
And she kind of looked at me like,
Wow.
like it was all like hitting her as she was explaining to me. I feel like it was hitting her even more in the moment. Like, and she was connecting the dots, like, yeah, like as if she was finally starting to realize, like, that I had chased this thing, but it was nebulous. It crumbles at the touch. Because what we should be chasing is a way of journeying, not necessarily a way of a destination, right? So yeah, money
Like
can
that,
make
right?
us never feel free and always make it feel like we need more and it can never be enough. And we have to work hard to keep up the demands and we have to always maintain and fix the things that money buys us. And what destructive attitudes and beliefs could you develop if you become obsessed with money, the concept of money? What destructive attitudes and beliefs?
Like you said, neediness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Reliance on like material items.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you said attitudes, right?
Yeah, attitudes and beliefs.
Um,
Could it expose you to bad temptations and influences? Bad influences like people who are really good at making money and you're going to hang out with them a little bit more, even though they're very morally corrupt and they're spiritually bankrupt. But you're going to hang out with them more because you're interested in how that relationship can help you with your objectives, right?
right. Corruption, definitely one of them.
Yeah, it can give you a restless mind perhaps, and might you start using people for your own money motives, right? Like
Yeah.
that could become something you're subjected to, and we might not think that we would do that, but once we're in that situation we might be compelled to act otherwise. People act in all kinds of ways that they don't think they would when the life opportunities present itself. Might you become less motivated to spend time with people who can't advance your wealth or your career, such as the poor, the young, the disabled, and the elderly?
Yep. You
Yeah,
could,
for sure that's going to happen if we get too focused on this, right?
yeah.
And how might it increase your fears and anxieties? How might money increase your fears and anxieties? Might you think other people are using you for your money once you have it?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have a financial love interest, you might be like, are they with me just because of my money? Or are they with me because they really like who I am? It's like that Eddie Murphy movie, Coming to America. He pretends to just work at, what is it, McDowell's? And he's like he has the mop and he's trying to be like a fast food worker because he's really a prince in some other country. And he's like, I want people to just love me for who I am. Everyone loves me because I'm a prince, right? You know, if you have more money, will people try to take it away from you? And in what ways?
Well, I think like maybe when when people know that you have like more money, potentially they expect you to pay for things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like hosting events and whatnot, or going out to dinner with like friends.
I have some clients who um like they don't have any of their information anywhere because they said that once they post their information, everybody's reaching out to them for donations on a million different things.
Oh wow.
And they
Yeah.
just get bombarded. Hey, you've got a social responsibility to these people suffering here and those people suffering there, and they're just peppered with people that you know want to meet up with them, and then later it's because they want money and they want donations and they want this and that,
Wow.
right? So they keep a low profile because they're like, everybody out there is just after, once they find out how much money you've got, they're just after you. You're just a target. There's just countless people, and they've all got their ways to kind of like fool you into what they're about, and then you find out they just wanted money, right? One of my clients I trained for many years, he was very, very successful, very wise, very super moral, super moral. He was one of the people that I think did the wealth thing at a very mature, enlightened level. Okay. And so he was like, Brendan, the thing with money is like once you get there, he's like, people always have their hands in your pockets for everything. They're
Wow.
always trying to get it from you, whether it's taxing you on everything possible or just trying to find ways to like sneakily take money from you.
Hmm.
Like everything, people are trying to screw you over. Like he's like, it's a constant battle,
Wow.
constant. You know, other people are kind of like resenting you, and that was another thing he said. Was that, you know, a lot of peers and family are actually, they don't want you to win as much as you think,
Wow.
like because your success financially stings their insecurities.
Hmm.
So I remember one night I was hanging out with this same client and a really wealthy friend of his who I also knew, and they were telling me this. They're like, you know, a lot of the people that you think really are supporting you and stuff, you realize they are actually bitter towards you deep down, and they don't really want you to succeed as much as they might say on the surface. In fact, they'd rather see you fail because your success makes them feel even more insecure with where they're at.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So we might have people that you know hate us or try to sabotage us. The guy, I think it was Johnny DuPont from the movie Foxcatcher. He inherited the DuPont company and everything else, and he was saying at one point that, you know, once you have money, everyone's trying to get it from you constantly. So once you get that financial security, they're
You
coming.
don't.
It's like a
Yeah.
zombie horde in a movie. It's like, instead of brains, it's like your money. You know, they're coming after you, right? Like
Right.
that's really what it is. Like that's what these people have said. You know?
Not so appealing after all.
Yeah, yeah. Now, let's imagine you get there. Imagine you get to this place where you've got just such financial abundance and success. Might it, in some ways, hurt your drive to be even better? Like you might have less motivation and ambition to keep working on yourself and getting better once you hit that sort of success level.
That's true.
Yeah, I think, you know, lack of money is such a powerful state of being because it's like motivational rocket fuel. Do you want to take away that motivational rocket fuel? There was
No.
this one sales speaker once, and he said this. He said, look, if you want to get good at sales, get yourself in debt. Go buy a big car you can't afford, buy a house you can't afford. He's like,
Hmm.
what that does for your motivation and your courage to push past your resistances and your hesitations because you need the money, like that's going to take you to the next level. He's like, get yourself in debt. You want to be good at sales? Get yourself in debt.
Wow. I could see why that like makes sense. Like that
Yeah.
drive for sure. But even in the sense of like the number one, like what I just thought of, even in terms of let's say vacationing or and whatnot, like you're less likely to like enjoy the simple things or maybe reach out, like spend time with people who, like you said, the poor and things like that, doing those charity things or just like being giving. You might always be like holding on to your money or just protecting yourself against people because you think everybody's trying to take from you. So you're less, um, what's the word? Less giving.
Yeah, you're just going to be a little bit more suspicious.
Suspicious. Yeah.
Right? And then another thing that's very real is that once people have money, you know, do you think they feel the pressure to legitimize the amount of wealth they have? Like, oh, I earned this. Like, you know, this wasn't just an accident. Like, I've put in the time. They're constantly trying to legitimize, like, hey, it's not like I undeservedly have this disproportionate amount of financial abundance in life. That's one of their insecurities
Wow.
psychologically. Rich people, they feel this pressure to legitimize it. And you know what another one of their insecurities is? Wealth guilt. They feel guilty that others deserve wealth more than them.
Wow.
So if you want to relate to the realities, and my past 15 years, I've been a private coach for the top 5% wealthiest people in the country. So I've really had the privilege to be able to experience what their inner reality is.
Wow.
And, you know, and this is a lot of what they struggle with. And sometimes you have to be wealthy before you appreciate that they have struggles too, right? They're from the same universe of emotions as everybody else is. They feel sadness, disappointment, anxiety, fear. They have loved ones they want to take care of. You know, they don't want to let other people down. They want to know they're doing the right thing in life, right? So they experience all of that stuff, and they experience the beautiful emotions and the suffering emotions just the same we do. It's just different scenes, different clothing, you know, different settings, different people, but they're going through the same emotional challenges, right? They have doubts as to whether people like them just for their money, in the same way that, you know, others might think people like me just because I'm super fit, or just because I look good, or whatever, right? You know, might it grow your ego if you're surrounded by people who always pamper and flatter you because of your wealth?
Yeah.
And if we grow the ego, and that's what will happen in many cases. I think it was Marcus Aurelius used to get, when he used to go like parade downtown through ancient Rome and whatever, people would just be like lavishing him with praise, like, oh, you're the best and everything else. And he hired somebody to follow him behind him and whisper in his ear, you're nothing. You're going to be dead. All these people are going to forget you. They only love you for your money. Like, this kind of stuff was like being whispered in his ear because he knew the power of the ego to corrupt people. Because then we don't see ourselves objectively. We don't get enough critical feedback as is. So when we get more praise and flattery, our perspective of ourselves is like being in a funhouse mirror with all the muscles and slim waistline. Like, it's not even accurate.
Right.
And so that can distort how we function in reality, because we overrate our abilities and ourselves. And then because of ego, we demand more respect. You know, we want to be right. Like, we want to hide our faults. Like, there's all these different mental burdens that come with that. And that can be brought on by the praise and flattery of having a lot of wealth. It can create an ever deepening hell of egotism. All right. Now, does luxury and extravagance feed the desire for social recognition?
Oh, yes.
Now, yeah, of course, right? Is the need for social recognition like a disease? How is it like a disease?
It worsens.
Yeah.
And it's progressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, like, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, we suffer. It's just something that comes out of
Right.
nowhere, seemingly. We don't really understand it necessarily, the cause. We don't necessarily understand the cure. Like, it's just a condition that we suffer with that comes upon us, right? And then we constantly need validation and reinsurance, and we don't always get it, even when we deserve it. And sometimes other people get more, even though they don't deserve it, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just an abusive relationship we're in. We abuse ourselves by desiring social recognition, because it just doesn't work out well, right?
No.
Now, and I think that, like, drinking too much vodka, money can do strange things to us, you know, like increase instincts for greed, selfishness, moral corruption, exploiting others for profit. You know, it can influence us to live from a selfish center, to struggle with jealousy towards those with more, you know, compromise integrity and value because of money, lie, cheat, steal because of motivation for more money. Like, there's a whole bunch of ways that it can turn you into like a mad person, really. And can it lead to dangerous risks if we're desperate for money? Can we take dangerous risks like robbery and theft and bad investments, get rich quick schemes, or lying on the taxes? You know, do people start to take lots of risks because of this, or what?
For sure.
You know, if you truly knew all the troubles of the millionaires, is it possible you might not want to be one?
Yes, you've definitely shed some light on that. But no, it's true.
Yeah.
We think we
Yeah.
know what it's like to be there, but even just like learning from the individuals who are there, it's like, is it really that attractive?
Yeah.
And is it what we
Absolutely.
think?
Absolutely. Now, that's question 2. So we've gone into how is it overrated? What troubles does it bring? Now, what else could you focus on? Like, first of all, how do you define wealth? And how would you define it?
For me, I define like wealth as like fulfillment. Like I'm searching more for like fulfillment, and my question mark is if like, we're talking about money, if money is even like a part of that fully, that independence.
Sure, sure. So it's kind of like something that fulfills us,
Right.
right? And, what are all the real forms of wealth in your life? So what are all the real forms of fulfillment? What is inner wealth? What we talked about outer wealth, which is money. Okay, we talked about how unreliable that might be. What about inner wealth? What does that mean to you?
Serving others, just connecting to other people. Um, and I say like optimizing yourself, like who you are. That's inner wealth.
Yeah, creating that inner strength and creating, I think inner wealth comes down to creating the emotions you crave in a productive, harmonious way.
Hmm.
If I want security, I know how to make myself feel secure in a very harmonious way. If I want to feel significant, I know how to make myself feel significant in a very harmonious way. If I want love and connection, I know how to do that too in a very harmonious way. If I want excitement in my life, great. I learn something new. I travel to places I haven't been. I do it in a very harmonious, productive way. That's how I look at inner wealth. Now, in what ways is inner wealth better than outer wealth?
The impact side of things, like impacting others, and also like inner wealth can stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
Outer wealth doesn't.
People can take away outer wealth.
Right. That
People
too.
can't necessarily take away inner wealth. It's completely within your control. We
Hmm.
can't even make, or we can't necessarily guarantee we can create outer wealth. Just fate, circumstance, other things may be stacked against us. There's a great degree of luck when it comes to creating outer wealth, right? But not when it comes to inner wealth. We can do that. We have total control over that.
True.
Nothing that happens on the outside world can necessarily take that away from you.
Can interrupt
You can
that.
control it, right? In fact, I would argue to you that we seek outer wealth thinking it will give us inner wealth. We seek those things on the outside because we want what we think it'll give us on the inside. That'll make us feel important. It'll give us a better ability to love and connect. That it'll help us feel safe and secure. We're going about it outside to inside. I would say it's probably better to go directly to what you want most and just go straight to the inside. Just take the direct route there. Because when you take this detour and you try to satisfy it through the outside to bring you those inside benefits, there is a whole bunch of bumpy roads outside there. There is a whole bunch of like, uh, you know, speed bumps and obstacles and all kinds of junk. We don't need to take that route. We could take this the straight route to the inside, creating inner wealth, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, we've talked about that a bunch of
Yeah.
times.
And so then, that could be like your superpower to be able to enjoy simple living with high thinking and have that feeling of abundance. If you can feel abundant and wealthy under situations that on the outside aren't very abundant and wealthy, you have tremendous power in this life. The less you need on the inside to be strong, or the less you need on the outside to be strong on the inside, makes you more of a warrior, a resilient warrior in this lifetime. Otherwise, we're just pampered. We're like a pampered, you know, spoiled kid. That's how we are, even though, we've got all our toys and this and that. And it's just a false sense of security on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So, some of the things to think about is how might we increase gratitude and appreciation for the true forms of wealth in life? Something to think about. Do you have any thoughts just at the outset, or
Can you repeat that one more time?
how might we increase gratitude and appreciation for the true forms of wealth in life?
Just for like the inner peace that it brings us, right? Like I'm thinking of like being untouchable by like the outside world. I think it could help us like face challenges better, be more resilient to things coming our way because we're not disturbed.
Yeah, so we can appreciate how when we've been in that state, we've been so strong against the circumstances of life. And we can, reflect on it, and we can journal on it. Where have I had inner wealth in my life? What did I enjoy from that? What did I learn from that? How fulfilling was that? And journal about our inner wealth experiences. When was a time in my life when I felt 10 out of 10 loved and appreciated? When was a time in my life when I felt 10 out of 10 confident? When was a time in my life when I felt 10 out of 10 grateful? What was a 10 out of 10 happy moment in my life? Right?
Yeah.
What was a 10 out of 10 beautiful, awe-inspiring moment of my life that just took my breath away? Start to reflect on that, journal that, and build your inner wealth bank account. You can reflect on these stories whenever you need to. And when you relive them, you will feel that inner boost. You'll be like, yes, I remember this moment, right?
Yeah.
It'll give you what you're seeking on the outside with financial stability. You can create that on the inside in a more reliable way without getting caught up in all the games of, pledging allegiance to money as the ultimate finish line in living a human life. Right? It's like getting a touchdown. It's like getting a touchdown and you realize you're on the wrong playing field. You're like, what? I got a touchdown. We win. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong playing field. I'm playing at the wrong stadium. Where am I supposed to be? Like.
Hey, I thought the finish line was supposed to be here.
Yeah, what? Wrong finish line, first place. Wow, I'm still unhappy. What's going on here? In what ways is the fear of poverty and destitution irrational and unjustified? If we're to be poor and destitute, how is that kind of an irrational fear?
Well, I think that there's always a way. There's always a way out in a sense. And I guess just speaking for myself too, I do have like family support and people around me who I know that would step up. So
yeah, it's not a fixed state. If you get there, there will be strangers that'll care about you, that'll help you get yourself back together. There'll be friends, family, support programs, mentorship, coaching. There'll be all these things to help you out. You still have your inner potential to just make enough money to get by if you need to, based on your hard work, your discipline, how coachable you are, how motivated you can get. You have the capacity to create wealth no matter what happens to you, right? And if you were like poor and destitute, you don't have the same obligations and troubles and responsibilities you had before.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
You're free of a lot of that stuff. It also helps you develop really crazy survival skills in life, being able to endure discomfort and the unknown. And that could help you create even more wealth in your life later on, more inner and outer wealth, right? It could be like a dramatic interlude before a cinematic life moment in which you turn it all around, a very inspiring story for other people, right? Could provide opportunities to completely take a different direction in life that might be more rewarding for you. Ultimately, if you were poor and destitute, you could figure out a way to handle it, get used to it, and still find happiness. You can still find happiness through sunshine and fresh air and friends and time in nature and all these things. You just do more of it if you don't have the obligations, right?
Right.
This fear of being poor and destitute is what enslaves people to excess money focus. It's an irrational fear. It's ignoring the love and support you have in your life. It's ignoring what you can control and focus on. It's ignoring everything you have going for you. And it's ignoring everything you could do to make it better if that situation were to happen. It's an imbalanced perspective, and like having a muscular imbalance in the body, it leads to aches and pains and derangement, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I think, what's a better investment? Money in the bank account or people? Are people your best investment in life? Think about it. What's a life like without people?
I know.
Like,
no, it's true. It's so true.
what are the people in your life really worth to you? If you had, if somebody gave you a check, $400,000, or your family, which one are you going to pick?
Wow.
Yeah. People really are, in many ways, I think people eventually realize that the magnetism to draw into your life, what you need when you need it, the people you have in your life, like this is some of our true forms of wealth. And let me ask you this, you have eyes to see. Some people don't have that. Some people are blind. What's that worth to you? If a scientist was to try to pay for your eyes and say, I need them for a study, you won't be able to see again, but I have a blank check. Name your number.
Wow.
What would you say?
I would keep my eyes.
You wouldn't take $100 million?
No.
Okay. You have $100 million worth of wealth then. Some people are blind. You have working legs. Some people don't. If scientists wanted to pay you for your legs, you wouldn't be able to walk again. They're going to offer you $1 billion. What are you going to say for your legs?
I still wouldn't.
Okay. Add another billion to your wealth bank account.
I feel like I'm on Deal or No Deal.
Yeah. Some people don't have that.
Yeah.
Think of somebody you love dearest in your life. Okay. Scientists are going to take them away forever. You're never going to see them again, but they got a blank check. They'll write it out for whatever you want. Think of this person, somebody who's brought you into being who you are today and loved you and stood beside you unchanging and true through your whole life. Think of that person. They want to offer you $100 billion. You'll never see them again. Would you take the money?
No, I wouldn't give her up.
So let's add 100 billion to your wealth bank account. Okay. And also let's consider the fact that this person is in your life. They're not in everybody else's life. They're probably not in my life. I don't even know who they are, whoever you're thinking of. They're just in your life. And they're just the hero for you in your life. And that is a form of true wealth that we can take for granted. If we get focused on these pieces of paper that have Canadian geese and beavers and whatever else, and little pieces of metal that have a loon or a polar bear on it, and all these things, right? Like all of our money, like if we get too focused on that, we forget that we're really wealthy where it matters, right? We also have free time that others don't have. So I think in some ways we overestimate how much money we need to get by in life, especially when we consider how many people in the world are perfectly happy with less than us. And how much money do we really need to get by? Like, I'm married, so it's not like I can't really give away everything. It's not mine to give away, but I'd be content in like a 400 square foot apartment. Now, I'm at that point now. I wasn't always.
Right.
But I'd be cool with that right now. I could do that. And I know that I could chat with coach people on Zoom. I could continue to kind of like collect and organize wisdom, do my spiritual practice twice a day, all these different things. And I could be completely happy and just go outside in nature, be completely happy. I need very little to actually be financially stable when I think about it. But I've created that resilience, and I don't have desperation as a result. Right. Because I'm like, if I had to sell this house, no big deal. I will take literally the smallest apartment. I don't even have to own it. I'll rent it. I'll take the smallest thing, and I know that I could be on that inside just as happy as I am now. Right?
That's true strength. Yeah.
So we want to figure out how we can, but you can train that like a skill. You can nullify your desire and discipline your desires so that you don't necessarily need that, so that you can be content with simple living. Whether or not you live simple at that time, who knows, but you can be content with it and not live with that fear and anxiety that you won't be able to achieve that lifestyle. Just train yourself to be content with any lifestyle that can sustain you in a reasonable way without being, an all-consuming distraction, right? So it could be helpful to figure out what's that exact number for you. Maybe it's $2,000 a month, maybe. Then compare it against how much you have now. Maybe it's like, okay, dead bottom, rock bottom, I need $2,000 a month. I'll live off cheap food. I know that, certain forms of protein and stuff are cheap and really easy and blah, blah. And then I could do it. And then you can feel content. You'd be like, look, I'm above my number. Every month I'm above my number, right? I'm really kind of financially independent when I think about it, right? I would say research it. What's the smallest apartment you'd be comfortable with? What's the cheapest you get by on groceries? And get by and know what that number is. And you'll probably take great comfort in the fact that knowing that you're well above that number probably at all times. So is a warrior really tough if they need luxury? If they need to be pampered, are they really tough?
No.
No. Everyone thinks they're a warrior in life when they have all these financial desires that make them needy and childish, right? Like, that's not warrior tough. Like, we all showed up in here and we're all in a battle. We all showed up from the land of oblivion. We don't know who we were or what before we came here. And we all show up in this human life trying to figure out how to live it. And we battle a lot of opponents, okay? We battle parking tickets. We battle taxes. We battle, the people who call us on the phone telling us it's the CRA and there's some scam and we need to report all of our financial information. We battle, but most of all, we battle all the opponents on the inside, that harsh, judgmental voice on the inside. Our non-essential, unhealthy desires and ambitions that create more strain in our life. We battle jealousy. We battle anger. We battle mental laziness. We battle all these kinds of opponents. Everybody's a warrior in their life, whether you realize it or not, right? This goes right back to the ancient book, the Bhagavad Gita, with Arjuna and Krishna on the battlefield. It's like the battlefield exists. It's not tangible. It exists on the causal plane of ideas and philosophies that rule our life and determine our emotions. And we're not really a warrior if we have all this neediness. Like, that's going to weaken us for this battle, right? Can it make you more powerful on the inside, more fearless, more admirable if you find a way to be happier with less?
100%.
Does that make you more admirable? Who are you going to admire more? The one that needs more wealth, more money to be happy, or the one who requires less? It's just like, I'll tough it out. I don't care.
Definitely less. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we want to consider changing our values there rather than trying to get more. How can we train ourselves to be happier with less?
End of story. Yeah, 100%.
That is really what this conversation has been about the entire time. Hey, you can try to get more, or you can figure out a way to be happier with less, right? Here's some perspectives. Deep down, what emotions did you think this desire would give you? The financial stability, what did you think it would give you? Security?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Security, I would say.
Is it possible there's a better way to get that feeling of security?
Yes.
Sure. And we could explore some of those ways.
Yeah.
You might be able to take security rather than take security in outside circumstance. You could take security in your inner potential, that you can be 10 out of 10 motivated when you want to be, 10 out of 10 disciplined, 10 out of 10 hardworking, 10 out of 10 resourceful, 10 out of 10 patient, 10 out of 10 loving. Take security in that. You've forgotten who you are if you're feeling insecure. If you're feeling insecure, you've probably forgotten the divine support you have at every minute of your life, that some intentional, intelligent force is operating your immune system for you and fighting off invaders. Some intentional force is digesting your food and distributing the nutrients to the body parts that need it. Some intentional force is beating your heart. It keeps you breathing when you sleep. We are being supported and given security in so many ways beyond everyday awareness. And the more you pay attention to that and you remember the true self and you realize what's going on, the more you're going to find a lasting security. This is just a cheap counterfeit for true security, this whole money thing, right? Like, it's just a cheap knockoff. for the truth of reality, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes we get, sometimes we build false judgments, and that's okay. We're all here to help each other out. So,
Yeah.
what is your desire to be financially dependent on a scale of 1 to 10 after our discussion?
A 2.
Okay, good. So you brought it from a 6 to a 2 with one conversation.
Yeah.
And what do you think you have to think or do to preserve this mental non-attachment towards, this excess focus on financial independence?
Well, I like a lot of like the insights that you like provided today, some of the examples of like people in those situations, how it's not the most ideal. But I think for myself to like see it, I think that looking at the apartment side of things and actually seeing what I need and how I might be fulfilling that right now. I'm not setting the right parameters, I guess. It's kind of blind. So if I could actively like put it in front of me and actually do those calculations, I think that could help too. Just like really reinforce this.
So you can build an intentional game plan based on the wisdom that resonates most with you from what we discussed.
Yeah.
You can build an intentional game plan and discipline your desires and put things in check in order that you don't get taken on this wild goose chase, right? Absolutely. And like for me, I always think of certain things like what I acquire within my soul is all that I'm taking with me after this. What I acquire within my soul. So to be able to acquire really crystal clear perceptions on what matters and what doesn't matter, and to not get caught up in delusions is really a strength that I'm trying to develop within my soul, because I'll be able to have that be a natural part of me wherever we go after this.
Right.
Right. And then I think one of the things too is I think that the only true security throughout eternity is really security in that higher power. Right? The security of material riches is temporary and of uncertain value. And I think that all desires are a perversion of a desire for connection with that higher power, whatever that means to people.
Right.
To be able to acquire that would be able to make us feel more wealthy than being a millionaire. And that might be a lot to swallow at this point, but I'm just letting you know where this conversation might eventually lead is to more of a desire to realize what that intentional, intelligent force is that's supporting us through all of this. That is ultimately where this desire and nullifying this desire may lead us. So,
Okay.
key takeaways from today's discussion.
That I don't want to get caught in a goose chase. No, but for real, I think really trying to understand this fear helped me identify that it's not actually what I want. Like going from the inside out. I know we had mentioned this a few times, but I think sometimes in your day to day, it's really easy to get distracted by other people's ambitions, distracted by maybe uncomfortable situations that makes you kind of blinded towards your own wisdom. So I would say, like, for myself, like one of the main takeaways is just like staying grounded in the insights and the wisdom, and then also just um, being able to like fight these obstacles down. Yeah, that's like the inner strength. That's the true security.
Yeah, because we get hypnotized into this, right? If you're
Yeah.
living in the world will hypnotize into you and put you into a spell of suffering. And to be a true warrior in this lifetime, you must be a destroyer of thoughts and ambitions for excess wealth. You must cultivate the ambition for true wealth. Every possession will eventually get old, fall apart, and turn to dust. Viewed across all space and time, you wouldn't even bother yourself with them if you saw what they turn into. They're just temporary illusions. You know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, at the end of your life, do you want to collect a lot of love and wisdom, or do you want to collect a lot of expensive junk? Right? What's more important, people or things? You know, especially when it comes to our real long-term happiness. How can we create that feeling on the inside of being rich and abundant? Gratitude. Get the dosage and frequency right. Practice it twice a day. Reflect on gratitude in this moment in your life. That's how you can cultivate this. And literally, what you focus on creates reality to you. If you focus on everything you're grateful for, you start to feel abundant. But that doesn't happen by accident. It's a skill. You learn to train it just like anything else. If you want to feel wealthy, it's a choice. It's up to you, and it takes work. And there is a better way than collecting, you know, pieces of paper and coins to get that feeling of true wealth. And the way to do it, it's unique for all of us. And there's a way that's unique for you. And you can build your own little intentional plan on how to do that.
Okay.
All right. So I will send you the recording. And are you cool if we share this with whoever might benefit from the conversation?
For sure.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this and we know you are not, this is a gift of love and wisdom to you, co-created by ourselves, Monica and myself. However, any success that we might be, any success people might credit towards us is really just a reflection of the success of countless other beings who have contributed to us being who we are today and being able to share love and wisdom in the way that we can. All right, let's do this on 3. We're going to do go team on 3, friends forever. Okay.
Friends forever.
Enemies for never. 1, 2, 3. Go team.
Go team. Thanks, Brendan.
Friends forever. Enemies for never.